Morning glory, evening grace, brother and sister. Good to have everybody back along with us here with the Temperance Awakening. And today, looking at our 26th vaping lecture and day 19 of our quit, looking at something very important in case of relapse. In case of relapse. And staying quit from week to week can predict the likelihood of long-term abstinence, which is what we want, what we're hoping for. And success generally improves as the number of your vape-free days increase. But fighting a nicotine addiction, though, is a process. It's not a one-shot deal. You might lapse or slip and take a drag from someone else's pen. You might relapse after a while and return to vaping regularly. For most people, quitting is a journey, and journeys have uncertainties, challenges, and changes. Wrong turns happen, but they don't mean the end of the road, and they certainly don't mean that you failed. Cravings have a real-time life expectancy of about 5 to 10 minutes. They can feel much longer, but really that's all. If you do slip, your chances of success at getting back on track increase if you have an action plan in place. Even better, you already have every tool that you need for your action plan. Now, before we atomize here what's in our toolkit, let's look at some of life's red flag situations and why lapses actually have some benefits. Number 1, bad cravings. Urges are a normal part of the quitting process, and early on they come from physical withdrawal. And, as we've said before, that can come from any craving, for somebody that's trying to quit alcohol, to somebody trying to quit drugs, down to somebody that's trying to quit eating sugar that has a sugar, addiction. Cravings related to emotional and social dependence often arise later, but over time they all become easier to manage. And then there's high stress situations. You know that they're coming, but you can't control them. These situations could include anything from a divorce to financial problems, getting married, moving, to a new area, and, work deadlines and things. And then there's negative moods. Emotions, as distinct from situations or events that can cause them, also can cause you to slip. For example, there's anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. And then alcohol use, which is something that people should abstain from altogether. But drinking, though, impairs your judgment and it lowers your inhibitions. And you might be more likely to think that just one puff will be okay when it's not. And then there's social conflict. Seeing other vapors can tempt you, like we've mentioned. Especially if they're part of your social group. Arguments or conflict with like a spouse or like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, children, your kids, co-workers, friends, they can also trigger that. And then there's hard shocks, things that you don't see coming, and those things can make, it can make it harder to handle than life's regular stresses. Such as a breakup with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a divorce, a car accident, the sudden death of a loved one, a diagnosis of a serious illness, or, losing a job. And when these difficult occasions arise, it's common for people to revert to old coping mechanisms. Vaping might feel like a reward for surviving the trauma, but, where's the logic in that? In abandoning your goals and harming yourself as a reward? You're really just punishing yourself. And what if you give in to an urge and vape during this program? A slip or a lapse is common. It happens to most people with any type of addiction they're trying to break. So don't beat yourself up about it, and more important, don't use it as an excuse to quit the program. Instead, use the lapse as a teaching tool for yourself so it can guide you in the future. And you can learn and make corrections to grow in self-awareness by doing a few things here. Number 1, examining your desire to quit and making a stronger commitment to it. Secondly, identifying the places, people, or situations you might need to avoid. Third, strengthening your coping mechanisms such as visualization, hand-to-mouth therapy, meditation, or, like stretching. Things that we looked at that can help you before. And then next, reaching out to your quit team for additional help. And lastly, maybe meeting with a healthcare provider to adjust your nicotine replacement therapy. And so now looking at our teen talk, getting your child back on track. Above all, stay calm and encouraging. What your kid needs after a slip is assurance and guidance. Remember that he or she might be feeling a lot of guilt and shame that might not be showing. Yelling, throwing your hands in the air, aren't going to make the situation any better, and it's not going to help your child move forward. Explain that relapse is sometimes a part of recovery. Acknowledge that it's alright to hit a speed bump or to start over. Remind your child of the courage it took to make it this far and congratulate them for their progress made and build on top of that. And so now looking at our assignments, of course, continue with H2M and keep doing the hand-to-mouth therapy, that is. Keep doing nicotine replacement therapy if you're doing that. And do your visualization exercises. And some things that we're going to look at new today. Fill out your relapse prevention plan and use it as a roadmap to help you avoid slips. So get ready to write, especially if you don't have the textbook. If you do slip, fill out your lapse report to keep yourself accountable and focused. And so now looking at that, in case of relapse, and that's on page 184 if you do have the textbook. And so we're going to make a table here. So we got two different tables here, and what you're going to want to do is to write some things, like across the top, and then leave some room below, to look at some things and answer the question here. But first to the question, this isn't part of the table, but leads us to the table. What are you afraid will cause you to lapse? And here are the things that you're going to write at the top here. First, possible trigger. What's a possible trigger to lapse? Then the next section, is it environmental, emotional, behavioral, or social? And then thirdly, note the corresponding day in the program and review it. And those days there, hang on, there's something you need to write after day, that being days 8, 9, 10, and 15. So note the corresponding day, that being 8, 9, 10, and 15 in the program and review it. And then next on the table, what can you do to prevent it from triggering you? What can you do to prevent it from triggering you? And then lastly, what will you do if you slip? And like I said, make a table, to write some things, underneath those things that we mentioned. What's the possible trigger? And then etc. And so now, a couple of things to mention before we start the new table about the lapse report. If you do lapse, as we said, that's all right, but you need to figure out why so that you can prevent it from happening again. And then if it does happen, that's what we're going to use the next table for. First, we have, in this new table here, the lapse action. Lapse action. And then, next, what led to the lapse? What led to the lapse? Then what can you do differently in the future? What can you do differently in the future? And then next, what will help you get back on track? What will get you back on track, or what will help you get back on track? And then lastly, what did you learn? What did you learn from that lapse? And now that we've started back on the right track again. And so, thanks for being with us there today. And tomorrow, we will be looking at our 27th vaping lecture, day 20 of our quit, and looking at health checkup. Health checkup. And so we look forward to that, and we'll see you then. Until that, every can the shadows flee away. I'm Dr. Cooper, and I love you, and I appreciate you.